beauty is actually in simplicity with these automations.
Greg Rogg, a serial entrepreneur with over 6 years of experience in tech-driven online education. He co-founded EasyCart, which helps educators sell courses, Automation House, leveraging no-code tools for online growth, and ZenCal, an automated scheduling app.
We try to do the robots so that people don't have to do their robot job. It's like you see it everywhere. I try to design those automations so that nobody has to wait.
I love the monkey jobs.
It's super straightforward, and I want my automations to fuel these apps with tasks for people.
What we're going to be seeing in like 10 years in the space of automation?
I think AI is the indication of AI being really serious. Change is how fast it kind of goes. The mindset is very important, that you recognize small things in your workflow that can be automated and you pursue this automation. This is the way.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Mastering Tech Growth. I'm your host, Mike, and today we're diving into a topic that is reshaping the tech industry, AI-driven automation. So from automating business processes to improving efficiency, AI-driven automation is a key driver for success for the modern business. Joining us today is Greg Rogg. He's a serial entrepreneur, and I would say an expert in the automation with ample of experience developing smarter tech-driven solutions. So Greg's journey includes co-founding EasyCart, a platform that enables educators to create and sell courses with ease, Automation House, a company that leverages no-code tools and robotics to grow online businesses, and ZenCal, which is a game-changing calendar app that automates scheduling across multiple platforms. Recently, Greg and his team released Alice, which is an AI assistant for every task that works with your apps. And full disclosure, I am a user of Alice. The moment I installed it, I was like, Greg, come on the show. Let's talk about this. So in this episode, we'll cover everything that implements automation, exploring cutting-edge solutions towards that, which is Alice is one of that. So before we begin, a quick reminder to our listeners, if you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on Castbox, or wherever you're tuning in from. Your feedback helps us grow and bring more insightful content to the tech community. Okay, let's dig in. Greg, welcome to the show.
Yeah, it's good to be there. Thank you for the invitation.
Of course, that's going to be an interesting one. I love that. So before we begin, Greg, when I say mastering tech growth, what comes to your mind?
Yeah, for me, it was always doing leverages to spin off my multiple online businesses and ventures. And I also like to build on leverages. And leverages are especially automation for me for the last maybe 5 or 6 years. It's kind of a new approach to automation that I managed to utilize for different projects that I run. And we have like really small teams that are kind of handling big projects thanks to automation itself. We have millions of operations and thousands of robots that are working for us daily, and they are inside of all the processes of our online or product companies. So basically, we employ automations to handle customer service, marketing, billing, sales. And in all of those processes, we kind of inject those small automations to help us accomplish better results and also just run businesses kind of on autopilot. So this is the biggest leverage that I have for the past years. And once ChatGPT came out, we started to explore how this can be handled with AI or with the help of AI, or how we can utilize AI to just kind of like complement the automations that we already have. And this is actually the idea that brought Alice to life. We did Alice, which is like a simple, maybe not so simple anymore, but an assistant, a native app that helps you connect to automations. And this was the original idea to bring this software to life, was basically to use our existing stack, our existing automations that we had, mostly on make.com, some of them on Zapier, some of them custom built, but we wanted to have an interface that can talk to our automations. So let me explain this way. In the old times, we had to create a really robust data structures that would enable our automations to run I mean, we had to have this structured data, every field has to be correct. If there was an error for triggering some automations, it will ultimately stop, and it was pretty difficult to debug. So you had to create a structure of data, and then the structure of data should be really clean in order for automation to run. And one of the really bright ideas of Adam, who I work with on Alice, was, okay, what about we ask AI to create those triggers? What about we ask AI to create those inputs to automation, so that we can just chat to an interface, and then we have these strict data formats that are produced as the output, therefore running our automation. So that's the idea for Alice, so that we can easily chat with the interface and ask for example, to issue an invoice, or maybe to create a subscription for our users, or maybe to just, I don't know, add someone to a mailing list. And within this chat interface, whether you chat with it, whether you or just write messages, Alice behind the scenes will format it as a data for our automation that fuels our automation, will trigger our automation, and then make sure that the process is finished within our API or some other API, and that the job is done. So that was basically the idea, and one of the biggest leverage we managed to create.
Okay. So we set this scene. We have an Alice, which is a Windows Mac app, effectively an interface, which is, think of ChatGPT. You're able to chat with it. It's literally the same, right? But if you issue a command, these commands actually now go to the backend, and the backend is the make.com, Zapier, or potentially your own hosted workflow automation tooling, right?
Correct.
So,
yeah.
So these commands will just go in and do, well, I mean, imagination is your limit, right? It's like
Correct.
as many tools you can connect up and all the workflows you can come with, as long as you can actually draw the workflow, you could automate it, right?
Yeah, as long as you can create a scenario in a no-code tool like Make.com or Zapier, you're good to go. But like you said, you can also connect your own API. So you can connect to your own API, to your own app, and you can talk with AI. You can talk and send commands to your own app, because Alice will format a perfect JSON structure for you and just send it out so that any of the tasks can be performed. So apart from all the tools that are, popular and have their own APIs, you can use your own. And you can even we have a custom AI feature, which is just an option to connect your own backend to Alice as well. So we are exploring that now. We are leveraging the knowledge bases of companies, even behind firewalls, with offline models that can be plugged into Alice, and you can chat with those. So this is also an option to connect different sources. So in a way, like you said, it's very similar to ChatGPT as a front end, as an experience, but under the hood, you have a lot more possibilities, because it's a lot more like geared towards different models using, not only open AIs, also Grok, which is super fast and insane, but also, Perplexity and Claude and many other models that you can use in parallel. And also it allows you to connect even your own custom AI with, let's say, offline models like Olama.
I mean, when I installed it, Alice, and I looked at the setup where you can have a different assistant. So you can have an assistant for show notes generation, an assistant to look at the keywords for the particular things, and marketing bits and stuff. And for me, a lot of around the podcast production and social media and things like that, I was like, this was what I was missing, because I had a huge amount of just bookmarks with to the prompts with ChatGPT, where I would have my what I call the playbooks in a Google Doc, where I would click on this and go to that prompt, fill in and get the results, and sort of manually drive that. And then I was like, oh my God, like that was a missing bit, So my mind got blown like instant after a couple of hours of usage. Just invite all the listeners to give it a go. So if we put Alice now on the front and just go back to the in the back and go back to the topic in general for automation, I really loved how you put it, that this is a huge leverage for the businesses to actually get their processes to another level when it comes, to just efficiency and, and people. So what, cause you're doing this, what was the main challenge? Like, let's say business, listening right now, they go like, oh, 100%, I have Stacy in HR who does the same thing, copy paste or whatever every day. If I could use that, she could just take that and get that efficiency. Like, from your perspective in your business, this is like, what was the main challenge to actually onboard these automations at scale?
Yeah, that's a great question. And actually, this is a really tough one because it boils down to mainly the processes that company has in place. And we've been doing that for many different companies, big and small, enterprises as well. And we try to look at what they do, and we try to propose the ways that could, utilize automations to help them make tasks faster. The ultimate problem was always the same. They didn't have the processes in place. Even if they had the process, it was not like it was in someone's head, basically, not put in a guidebook or even Notion in a simple form. So basically, the first thing, the homework that you have to do in your company is to basically decide what kind of processes drive your sales, drive your customer service, and name them and put them as a simple instruction, even with bullet points, because it's the starting point where also most of the optimization comes from. We realized that when people started doing this for their businesses, they found a lot of waste in place that they already have in place, and they can fix right away. So they started to map out the process, and they realized while mapping the process, oh yeah, this is clearly wrong. We have to do it differently. And this is the first step that will that is not connected to automation at all, you might say, but it will improve the quality of what you do. It will improve the speed and save some time of the people who work with you. But then once you have those processes in place, then you have to decide which of those is most likely give you the most advantages when you try to automate it. There are processes that are very robust, manual, require experience, require people, the connection between some people, and they simply can't be automated like in a way that we try to do it. So there are, and it's great because we just don't want people to be to do the monkey jobs, do the things that robots can do for them. We don't want to erase relationships and what business is all about. We just want to give people more space with automations to do what really drives the business, what's really the relationship part. And this really helps. But if you find and qualify the process that you already have as a process that can be easily automated, for example, invoicing process, and also maybe contracting process. You have different contractors, they all fill in some forms, and this can be all automated. In my companies, we have processes for that. It's super easy. They fill in the form, then it's automatically transferred into an agreement, and the agreement is automatically processed so that they just click and process the agreement. And we even schedule a transfer for the job that is done after some, marking it like as done. So basically there is a lot of things that you can automate in most of the processes that require people to move data between, let's say, one software to another. This is easily this can easily be automated. So you can think of those tasks that you can just create a map of processes and then decide, okay, this process is a great example of something that we can automate, and let's focus on this one process and do it end to end. Try to do as many things as we can in this process automatic. And for the process, if you can imagine like a map of the process with bullet points, if you have like 100 bullet points that leads you from beginning of the cooperation with someone to basically maybe paying him out as a contractor. So you have 100 things, and maybe 80 things can be automated, maybe 20 cannot, but basically most of it can be automated. And what you have to take into consideration is also, I want to make those processes proactive. So basically, we don't need people to constantly check in for something. We live in there is a lot of waste in companies where someone is waiting for something. He's waiting for an email to come, and then when the email comes, he processes it, but he also checks the mail every few hours, and waste some minutes on that because there is no email coming. So basically I try to design those automations so that nobody has to wait. So that, for example, we have very simple tasks, to-do list. You imagine like the simplest to-do app like Todoist, or maybe I don't know, a Google To-dos, I think it's called like this, but very simple. I mean, it's super straightforward, and I want my automations to fuel these apps with tasks for people. So we used to do this, for example, and in different processes that we automate, people just get tasks from the machines. So they are not waiting for anything. They just open the to-do app and they see what they have to do in this very moment. They don't have to check anything. So this is like reactive versus proactive. And I don't want people to be proactively looking for searching a solution for a problem. I want them to be acting reactively to what they have to do, because automation just said that, okay, now we have to do this and that. And this is far easier. And this is where a lot of like time is wasted in companies.
Mm-hmm. I actually love that very much. It took me years to develop a proper habits in business to actually work with the to-do apps. And I still see people just, starting their days with just random email checking, responding to some, Teams or Slack messages without any structure within your day. Where it took me years to sort of develop the habits where I actually start my day by opening my to-do app and going like, okay, what did I add yesterday that I need to do today, or what did I add a week ago with the reminder that popped up today, and just get that filled. So effectively what you're saying is that with a proper automation, you can fill your to-do lists automatically. So you don't even need to like chase and add, and it just comes in. So you open that up and you just start knocking out items. That's powerful. Right. That's powerful. I love the monkey jobs. Monkey jobs. That's the first one. But I love
because they are, it's like we try to do the robots so that people don't have to do the robot job. It's like you see it everywhere. You come to any company and you see people just copying and pasting things from one place to another, or maybe trying to log into interface. We try to eliminate with automations. We try to eliminate the interface, the use of the interface, so that people don't have to log in, forget passwords, reset them. We spend like hours on that if you can't. So basically we try to eliminate that, and we try to communicate with all the software on the API level so that we don't have to, go to the UIs and do those operations in UIs. Of course, people would say, yeah, why do you have to talk to Alice to, I don't know, even add someone to a newsletter, or add a client to a CRM. Well, you can log into CRM and you can add this client, probably you're a few clicks away. Well, maybe you're a few clicks away, but you have to open the browser. It has to load up. You have to log in, forget the password, sometimes reset it. Then remind yourself, where do I add customers in HubSpot? Then, you have this huge pile of fields that are unnecessary in the most cases. Instead, I just open Alice, I press Command-Shift-D to summon Alice, and I just say, hey, Alice, can you please add Mike to my CRM? His email is this and that, and that's it. And she will do it for me.
Or you can actually open a mic and say that instead of typing, which is another. Yeah. It's very cool if you have a proper headset, like people use to make calls like sales guy. I mean, I play with that, and I was like, oh my god, you feel like you are in like this battleship control station. Basically, you're just clicking buttons and going like, do this, do that, and things just happen. It's such a powerful concept, and seems like movie like, but it's just go ahead, do it, and it'll take some time to set it up, but once you do, it's just so freeing by nature. Just like
we'll transition to that. No UI is natural for a human. It's like no UI that we have with thousands of options that you have to click. Google UI is simple, right? You have one input, and this is ultimately what we're gonna accomplish with AI as well. So we'll just have an input which will be very simple and straightforward. This can be typing, but like you said, speaking is much more natural, and we'll get used to it. For now, it's not ready. People struggle with Alexa and Siri, and this doesn't feel ready. But AI will enable this to be ready in a short period of time. So in Alice, it's also not yet ready. Like, you don't feel it's like supernatural. It's not a natural conversation, but you can still do things by just talking to Alice. But give it a year or maybe a few months, and you'll see that you'll be able to just like fluently chat to AI, and she will just do the task that you ask her for.
I love that. We had a like AI and big data person in the show about like maybe 2 months ago, and we literally talked about what Alice is. We were just like talking about AI future, and the projection was that we're just going to talk with the modules and we'll get the work done. And I've seen Alice, and I was like, it's moving so quickly. Like the market is just coming up with these awesome things. Can I take you a little bit back, Greg? So when you were talking about bullet points and doing the flows, do you know the concept which is called value stream mapping?
No.
No. So if the listeners put in the Google as well, it's effectively you have a range, right? And the range is very often is some type of value stream, right? You go from hey, client asked for this, and it ends at client has that, right? And everybody in business, stakeholders involved in that range, they come in a room, they sit down and they go like, okay, what is the very first step we do at the high level? Maybe we'll get requirements, right? Okay, what happens in that biggest step? Like, how do we actually get the requirements? Okay, Stacy sends an email, this and that. And the value stream map effectively, forces the stakeholders to spend days in a workshop to just map out what is called the current state, right? And then you look at this current state and you go like, well, okay, we have some issues over here. Lead time is big, process time is huge. Maybe another term is called complete and accurate. When you move through the stages, it's like how complete the previous stage was and accurate to move to the next one. So it's a very a good framework to really do what I believe is a very first step to go like, okay, well, all this area, once we do value stream mapping, is actually quite poor. So if we can go in that and just automate segments of it, of course, value stream mapping wasn't created for automation. It was created to create initiatives of how business can streamline their processes. But ultimately, what we are right now with the technology is that you can look at this and go like, should that be a person or should that be a proper automation? So I feel like these two methods, value stream mapping and automation, especially AI-driven automation, come together very, very nicely.
Yeah,
Great
idea. Yeah, that's a great idea. And I have to add that most of us, especially in the bigger companies, we kind of know what RPA is, this robotic process automation, which is like totally different to what we do right now. I'm a proponent of like super modern approach to automation, not the old one. The old one was basically someone offered you automation, and this is also why so many people and also businesses they kind of turn down the automation at some point, because that was the process where someone would make you an offer to automate your processes, then he would come to your company and maybe ghost your employees for a few months, and then it would take him like few additional months or a year to create like a custom version of software that you would use to automate the processes. And then you'd have to, pay this guy indefinitely. And this is old ways and wrong ways of doing that. This can be the modern approach to automation is much simpler. Once you have those value mapping in place, it can be done really easily with the modern tools, with simple no-code automation tools. You don't have to write your own software. You don't have to spend like a huge budget on it. It's really inexpensive in this regard. And also you can think of employing AI on top of that to basically help you with this, because if you have a lot of automation and you need to trigger them with this proper data, like I mentioned, the data that you have to correctly format and stuff like this, a lot of people who are managing this will make mistakes if they don't do it daily, And AI is like, I know that it's silly because we know that AI makes mistakes, right? We know that models tend to hallucinate. But what we figured out in our way to approach it is basically it's mistake-free. It's really rarely that that any of the mistakes occur. If they do, there is no panic mode. There is just Alice gives you a friendly message that sorry, something went wrong and this is the details of this error, so that you can easily handle it. But I think there is this promise of agency, and that will be able to tell AI what to do, and it will do it for us.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's very far in future, to be honest. Like the general approach to agency is close to impossible right now. We created so many different interfaces. We created so many different things that let us, I don't know, maybe book a holiday. It's not an easy task to tell AI to book a holiday for us. It involves so many things that I don't think it will come pretty soon, and business-wise, it's also not like this. It's not going to work, I'm not going to say, yeah, can you please optimize my sales? And no, it can give you some ideas, but it won't be able to, connect to any software that you use. Someone use Teams, someone use Google, someone use HubSpot, Pipedrive and stuff like this. It's really not possible in a general way that people tend to believe it will be working. So our approach is a bit different. Our approach is still using automations so that we can strictly control how the data flows, what kind of software is used in the process. We can see how it works. We can debug it. We can see every step of the process. But we are initiating those automations, triggering those automations with AI, which helps us with basically skipping having to remember everything, having to structure the data properly, and yada. This is the process that was a pain in the ass in the way we automated things, and now we can eliminate it with the help of AI. But still, it's the agency that we invented, kind of with automations. I think it's the best and the most reasonable approach to agency today. Not the promise of the future, agents doing things for you, which might eventually happen, but it's going to be quite difficult.
Okay, so we have a couple of things here. First question, you said it's almost error-free. So is that you trained your own module, or is it just like a very good prompt, which makes sure that the JSON data they get from API calls is able to be sort of understood and Alice sort of gets it, or was it something in the middle, which is your stuff, like your LLM?
Yeah, we are operating in the areas where things are not that difficult, really. Because if, for example, you want to insert some data about the customer to the CRM, it's simple data. If you want to extract, for example, results for this client from a database of, I don't know, real estate, it's pretty simple and strict data. It's not talking to the model where it hallucinates about, what you want to do in the future. No, basically, it's kind of like a strict things that we want to do. And the job of AI is basically to take our input and to structure it in a way that automation can then take this data and distribute to APIs, to different software. So this is fairly easy, and I think that's one of the easiest tasks that you can give AI. And for example, if we are talking about adding a customer again to, or adding an event to calendar, it's pretty easy set of data to work with, because you say, I want to meet with Mike tomorrow at 9 p.m. on Zoom. You have all the details, and there is almost 100 success rate that AI will be able to, understand this data and format the structure of the call, of the trigger for the automation correctly, because it's really, really simple. So if you format a prompt and you also give some examples that someone, can give to AI, can talk to Alice with these examples, it's really, the success rate is really high. So yeah, this works.
Okay. So when you mentioned agencies, Greg, and you said, we're not close and it's probably going to take some time. What do you mean by agencies? You mean a set of assistants, of AI assistants coming and building, almost like a business?
Yeah, correct. And to simplify this, and this is really big and something that everyone kind of in the tech world obsesses about. And this is part of the future, that we will be able to ask an agent to, for example, create a website like Amazon for us or something like this. And then what will happen is we won't have, to simplify again, we won't have this really quick relationship in the question we ask and the answer we get, like in ChatGPT, but we will have different agents that are responsible for different tasks in this process. and we will just ask to do it. Then, I don't know, go for a coffee or maybe go to sleep and wake up tomorrow. And then in the meantime, these different agents who specialize in different tasks and understand different areas of, let's say, web design, development. Again, I'm making it a bit simpler, but they will communicate and iterate through ideas. And this is like when you work with Cursor or some other software for web development. So now it kind of like, and also with ChatGPT, the idea is pretty clear. So sometimes you ask Chat something and it will give you about, incorrect answer. And you say, no, I don't think it's like, and he will like correct itself. And if you ask him to autocorrect, if you ask him to apply critical thinking to what he does, to the answers, you get better answers. So this is ultimately the same idea about applying this critical thinking, but in a chain of prompts, in a chain of questions and answers that you don't necessarily see, but they kind of give you at the end the result that you want. So if you ask an agent to build a software, then it will try to build a software, but not as a one response with ready-made code, but it will try to build small pieces, small parts of code, then iterate, test them. If they don't work, improve them and stuff like. And it will take time. It will be a process that leads to a solution that you want. So this is what I mean by agency, and this is something really important that we'll kind of like hoping to accomplish in future.
I'm sure it will come together. I mean, I'm sure it will come together. I mean, maybe it'll take a couple of years, but it's really immeasurable future. Like you see the bits of that future, and you go like, yeah, I can see how that will come together, rather than it's being some type like disruptive, heads in the cloud type of situation. I'm sure it will come together. So when you were talking through the range of automation examples and just sort of me thinking about business processes, I sort of went like, okay, well, we have what I would call like a simple automation, and then something which is just complex automation, which effectively can be defined by just how many steps you really need to do in that automation, and how many maybe different systems needs to sort of talk and get connected up. So from your experience, maybe within your business or serving others, like what is the like most complex automation you made it work? Like how many steps, maybe how many systems, just to give a flavor to people what's actually possible?
Yeah, the funny thing is that I don't aim for complexity at all. So this is funny, but once you start learning automation, and it's a really cool experience. I really recommend you start, I don't know, maybe learning make.com, which is my favorite tool. They have Academy. I'm not affiliated in any way. I just use them like day one. They used to be Integromat. Now they call themselves Make. And you can start building those simple automations, just connect the dots. And this is fully no code. You kind of need to become a bit technical, even if you're not trying to learn it. But once you're in the process, it's so much dopamine that you get from it. You feel like a kid in a Disneyland when you create an automation that actually works and can pass the data from here to there, and then notify you on Slack, but also do something else. And once you start doing that, you start complicating things, you start adding new modules, you kind of like, oh, what if I do this and that and this automation? So I've been in this place. I had automations with like hundreds of modules. And then I realized that when I come back after a month or two to debug it because it stopped working, because I don't know, maybe API changed or something like this, I can no longer understand it, and I have to still rework what I did. So the beauty is actually in simplicity with these automations. So instead of like creating a huge chain of commands that do like super complicated tasks, I really prefer to create like scenarios which are super straightforward and super simple. Sometimes they can contain a lot of steps, but you can clearly understand the value that you get from the entire process, and you can name it as a name of the scenario. So you can say that this is an OCR for an invoice, for example, and you have this process. If it's complicated, okay, let it be complicated. I don't know, multiple steps. It might be 20 or 30 steps, but you know what it does. But don't do a process like, I don't know, managing invoices, and then you have OCRs, you have like 1,000 different modules working, and you don't even know what's going on, what's going where. So basically, I really prefer those simple automations, even if they work in a kind of chain. You can link them together. So for example, if I have this OCR for an invoice, then at the very end of the scenario, automation scenario, I can say, okay, now that you've extracted all this data, pass it to the other scenario that will parse this data and add it to my QuickBooks or something like this, right? So then the other agent kicks in. You know what I mean? And then I have one agent that does the OCR and the other agent that does the filling of my, income or QuickBooks or whatever, so that I can easily debug it. I can easily see what went wrong and where, in which scenario, what part of what module, like you mentioned, I need to focus on. And that's far simpler. So it's really about simplicity at some point, and making it available for AI to work with. It's also about simplicity, because if you imagine, if you think of it, we as humans, we also don't process super difficult tasks all at once. You don't want to say, that I want to deal with this contractor, and you want to, make a transfer, make an agreement, make a contract, sign it. You don't do it all together. You do it step by step. So this is very important, to have those small steps available for you, and then Alice can do it for me easily. And this is how I approach it. It's like a chain of simple commands that I know that won't be adaptive to like an errors that much.
Okay, so there's definitely then the concept of complexity leads to much higher cost in maintenance, and cost is, say, time, right? So you sit down, you go like, okay, I'm going to create this automation. If I'm going to make it complex, I'll need to maintain it. Maintenance becomes much more prolonged. It's much harder to debug. It's much harder to look inside. So I'm wasting too much time over there. I rather take it in isolation steps and connect these steps, which are much smaller, much easier to manage. Is that like a right assumption, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So there's some concept of like, coding as well, right? Because when you were talking, I was thinking, okay, so we just want to decouple basically that the whole chain in the smaller bits, which, just goes back to like almost like a serverless or microservices approach, where you just don't want to, you want to have one service as small as possible, serving one problem, and then you just connect
one
them up
function at a time. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. So okay, so you are where you are right now with Alice and the concept of automation, and you have a lot of experience in that with the business and as Alice as product. What is waiting for us? And you mentioned the agencies, Greg, but like if we put like some creativity, like what we going to be seeing in like 10 years in the space of automation?
Yeah, I don't have a crystal ball anymore. It's like it's moving at such pace that you cannot like. This is some indication of something really serious. If you compare it to some other, hyped things that we had in tech in the past years, I think AI is the indication of AI being really serious. Change is how fast it kind of goes. So at this point, it's really hard to predict what we're gonna have in future. To be honest, when I'm watching some blind minds behind models and how they approach it, they openly say that they don't know as well. So basically, they say that, for example, they trained the model, they changed some parameters, and it started to work, but they don't really know how exactly this happened or why it happened. And they have the equation, the math is there, but at some point, with billions of parameters that you have, it becomes so complex that you can no longer perceive it as a human being. I really think that at this point we can hit a wall maybe and just it will stop developing. There is a scenario in which you can say, yeah, it's over, we don't know what to do now, we cannot improve it anymore. But I don't think this will happen, to be honest. I think that we proved that with the computing power, we can improve it. at least to a certain point right now. So it will, during the next year, it will improve thanks to only the computing power that we have. So this is an easy guess that it will get ultimately better. The agency is coming. I think that maybe it will require some other software layer, maybe a special API for AI, some kind of like what Apple does, for example, an extra layer in apps that will allow communication with AI and with models. That's probably going to happen, but that's a technical layer. So this is going to like ultimately change the whole ecosystem of business. And if I should predict something, I pretty much believe when I see people, especially in some other tools that we use, because we do tools for creators as well. So Easy Tools, Easy.tools is a platform where they can sell and create like where they can sell digital products. And I see a lot of innovation in that. So for example, for them, a lot of markets now become accessible because of AI. They can easily translate the courses that they create, ebooks, knowledge, things like that. And they can like really expand with what they tried to do, what they were doing locally. So this is quite big. And I think that we will see a great change in how people consume knowledge, perceive knowledge, create knowledge, and sell it on the internet. And this is going to be big. And also, I think that company-wise, we will see a slight change that kind of like will eliminate the particular roles in the company and make it like now you have a marketing department, you have sales department, you have customer service. I really think that what AI and automation would allow us to do is just like smooth the border between those, maybe eliminate them whatsoever in the company, and we'll just have operators who can plug into different areas of the business, and AI that helps manage those areas. So I don't think we'll have people who are like super specialized in one thing, because having Alice, for example, will enable them to tap into marketing, tap into sales, tap into the other things, and these low-level things AI and automation will handle for them. So they don't need this expertise to create a website themselves, or be a developer to fix some small thing, small bug in the software. Currently with Easy Tools, we can even enable customer service representatives to basically fix the label in the software, and this is thanks to some automation and AI running in the background. So I pretty much think that this will all come together in a way that we won't have the jobs that we have right now. We'll just have kind of like different, more general jobs, and we won't dive so much into the details and UIs of things.
Okay. It's a great future to some, maybe not so great to others, but yeah. It's a common future where I think majority who works with the technology of AI and automation sees that sort of coming in place and slowly starting to become real. So if I'm a business owner, so let's say I'm listening to right now to the show, and I'm a tech venture founder, right? So I'm instantly going, okay, well, I can squeeze out so much efficiency, and as well, just a cost management perspective is just great. Like where do I start? Like, do I go to the company which does automation? Do I start playing with Alice, and I give the tool within the businesses? Like in general, like what's your advice if company wants to do automation but is really don't know how to go from -1 to 0?
Yeah, that's especially for, like you mentioned, a founder or someone who is kind of like organizing this business, and it's not like a small manager in a huge structure. It's like a really, really great chance to basically explore it and have a lot of fun on the way, because it's a real fun if you kind of like exercise with it and start playing with AI and also connect it to automation. So what I do is, obviously one of the most important skills is the ability to talk to an LLM. So something that people call prompt engineering is one of the areas that one could look for to improve in this area. Obviously, this is great because it lets us kind of like understand how LLM works and try to force it to give you better answers, better results. So this is extremely important. So allowing ourselves to learn a bit more about that is important. Learning basics of automation is also like a really cool thing to do. It's so much fun. Like I mentioned, Zapier or Make.com that I prefer are great platforms to start, and this is fairly easy. You just have to, spend a few hours. But I think it's pretty fast, as this is a no-code platform. After an hour or two, you already have a result that gives you this dopamine, and you can continue doing that. And also Alice, yes, Alice is probably a really nice thing that you can try to implement into your daily routine and productivity routine, which kind of blends it all together. So this is really nice because you have those different models that you can experiment with, but from time to time, you can also create some simple automation and accomplish something more, So this is how I approach it. And I really recommend doing this way. So you don't just focus, take a week off and try to do everything that you can, try to automate everything that you can. This kind of I don't think it's a great approach, because you will surely make progress. But at the end of this week, later on, you will probably forget most of the things that you've done, and you won't use it that often. So what I recommend instead is just being curious and experimenting all the time, but also kind of like an introspective thing that will allow us to catch ourselves, to stop for a moment every time we kind of see that we are doing something that's repetitive, that's boring, that's kind of can be automated. So every time I have a thing like this, and I think of it like, okay, how much time does it take? How often do I have to do it? And I kind of make the equation whether it's worth to automate it right now. And if I spot such a thing in my workflow, then I try to automate it with simple automation, or maybe with Alice now. But it's only that I recognize it, I try to focus on that and spend some time to make it better for myself. I don't try to reinvent everything that I do. It's a lot of people try to do it like this. Okay, I'm going to be more productive. So I'm going to buy 10 books about productivity, 10 about automation. Then I'm going to sit for a month, automate everything, create a huge dashboard, and in Notion, it's going to work. It's not going to work. Like you said, it took you years to kind of make those a habit. And this is also the thing with automation and AI. So the mindset is very important, that you recognize small things in your workflow that can be automated, and you pursue this automation. This is the way. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And I resonate with that so easily, Greg, because we are 4 people doing the show, and I got 17 things to done any day. I have 2 hours, right? And I'm okay, do I send emails? Do I look at the show? Do I do guest sourcing? Do I look at YouTube? Do I chase some other initiatives and things like that? And it's at any given point, I'm okay, well, there's so much going on, and I always think about what's a repetitive task, and then just connect with the workflows and just take the low hanging fruits.
Yeah.
But it's a constant thing which happens when you think about efficiency of processes. It's not you take a pause and then you automate everything and then you go suddenly to some another level. It's a very, very compounding exercise, which actually drives. Yeah,
that's
I
right.
love that. So you mentioned prompt engineering, which 100%, and I'm sure our listeners know what that is. And I wanted to just maybe add on top of that is that for business owners who potentially don't understand prompt engineering well, and they just use a sentence, hey, please rewrite this email to sound more professional, which is probably the simplest prompt you can do. You can find online platforms who actually sell prompts, right? So if you don't want to spend days understanding how to actually do a good prompt, you can find professionals who sell prompts, for various tasks. I'm not saying that all of them are good. But if you're really thinking about complex prompts and stuff like that, it's probably a worth exploring endeavor, because it might save a little bit of time.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. More, I think, on the like kind of inspiration part. What can I do? How can I, structure the prompt? What can I use? What are the tips and tricks? How can I structure it? It's great for inspiration. The tricky part about this, like using ready-made prompts, it's kind of like a little bit like those Notion templates that I mentioned for organizing your life. So you basically buy and download them, but you never use them because someone else created them. And this is like the important part is the process of creation. So when you put like the prompt that you see, the ready-made prompt is just the outcome of some process that is super important to understand in order to use this prompt correctly. So when you just get the outcome, you don't get the knowledge behind it, and you don't get like the iterations. If you run through iterations yourself, you're in a much better position to kind of understand it better and make and get better results. So I treat it like a great inspiration, especially for beginners. But ultimately, there is kind of no shortcuts. The more you talk with the model, the more you spot this like aha moments where you get like, this is where I got it right. This is where I get. So basically, it's just like iterating through this, and this is how you learn how to chat with LLMs. This is like the ultimate way. But of course, you can make some shortcuts as well and see how others do it. Yeah,
I started like that. I remember, ChatGPT came out. Everybody were just sort of like simple sentences, and then I stumbled upon a website and just, I think it was Happy Face or Hugging Face. No, it was Hugging Face. I think, and it was like, act as this and be this, and I was like, oh my god, there's a structure to that. Like there's something which I have no idea, and that just became a rabbit hole where I went, and I was like, oh, okay, well, there is an actual science of how you actually prompt work.
Definitely, yes, definitely. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so another thing which I just wanted to sprinkle for our listeners is that people who buy businesses professionally, and there's a lot of people, and not necessarily it's a tech ventures you buy. You can buy simple businesses, cleaners, cutting grass, HRs or whatever. But people who buy businesses professionally, the very first thing they do when they buy a business and when they look at how can we, get the cash flow better is automation. They literally walk in an office and they go like, okay, well, a lot of what has been being done over here is just manual, signing papers, printing, sending or whatever. And the first thing they do when they walk in, they go like, what can we automate, and, which roles we actually don't need. So it's just putting that emphasis on that leverage, which Greg mentioned in the beginning, that automation, it is a huge leverage for literally any business. So whatever you're doing right now with your business, automation might bring a lot of value. So this is where I want to wrap this up. So thanks, Greg, for coming to the show. I mean, AI-enabled automation and the tools you guys creating, and the Alice in particular, it's insanely well. So if people want to know more about you, businesses you run, or Alice in particular, how do they find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on X. I'm mostly nose down in projects, but you can DM me there. I'm Greg_Rog, ROG on X, and you can find me on LinkedIn as well if you type my name, or you can just email me. It's different emails, but let me give you an email that you can always use because it's my private. It's webstandards@gmail.com. But it's best for you to reach out probably on X, where I check DMs pretty often.
Okay, we will have everything in the show notes. So if you're watching this on YouTube or you're listening that, just scroll down to the show notes, click the more button, and somewhere you're going to find all the links to be able to reach out to Greg. And just before I close, to our listeners, please subscribe, leave us a review. Your feedback is something which makes our day, especially if it's a positive one. If not, let us know how can we do better. Until the next time, stay safe and see you online.